In the poem Paul Revere's Ride by Longfellow, Paul Revere watches the steeple of the Old North Church for a signal of how the British were going to cross the Charles River on their way to Concord. 1 if by land over the great bridge, 2 if by sea rowing across the river. And lo, as he looks on the belfry's height, a glimmer and then a gleam of light. He springs to the saddle, the bridle he turns, but lingers and gazes till full on his sight a second lamp in the belfry burns. Welcome to Secret Codes and Ciphers. The real story of Paul Revere's Ride is a bit more complicated than Longfellow's poem, but it does give us a perfect example of a code. Codes are used to convey whole words, phrases, or even sentences, and in this case, 1 lantern signaled the British were crossing by bridge, and 2 lanterns meant they were crossing by boat. This was a code worked out in advance, and it was pretty simple. But codes can have hundreds or even thousands of different code words kept in a code book. Imagine we want to send a message asking, "What is the position of the enemy?" but in code. We could use a code from World War I called the Colorado Code. We can break this down into 2 parts. What is the position and of the enemy? Each of these phrases corresponds to a 3-letter code, DPM and JOP. To throw off anyone trying to decode this message, we put in a null like XOG, which corresponds to nothing, of course. Finally, to designate the code being used, we prefix it all with COL. So our final message ready for sending looks like this: COL for Colorado, DPM, XOG, JOP. On the other end, when it's received, it can be decoded from an alphabetical list of 3-letter codes. Perfect! Unless the codebook falls into enemy hands. Now, codes don't have to be translated into a series of letters. They can also be translated into whole words or other phrases. Did you notice the description of this program at the library website? Did you clean the tires? The brown shoe is trying to sleep in the arbor. Well, what could that mean? Imagine we have a codebook to tell us. Did you clean the tires could mean, did you buy the cake? And the brown shoe is trying to sleep in the arbor might mean, Svetlana will be here at 8. I hope you brought a fork. You can also send a code if you and your partner have the same edition of the same book. I just received this. It's a series of numbers separated by colons. What could it mean? Fortunately, my partner and I are using the same key to encode and decode messages for each other. This is the key, Mrs. Pigglewiggle's farm, and these numbers refer to page, line, and word. I've decoded the message, and here it is. Waggy is never friendly, so watch out. Of course, this whole process would be much easier if using a dictionary, because if you want to encode a message, it's very time-consuming to search a whole book for a single word. Remember, a code operates on the level of a word, a phrase, or even a whole sentence. So in that case, Morse code is quite a misnomer, because that translates letters into a series of dots and dashes. But before we leave Morse code, I have quite an amusing anecdote about World War II. Beethoven's Fifth Symphony was a symbol of resistance for the French in the war, despite the fact that Beethoven was German. This is because 5 in Roman numerals looks like a V, and V is a symbol for victory, popularized by Winston Churchill. But that's not all. The first notes of Beethoven's Fifth are G, 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 E flat, which correspond to ... dash, Morse code for V. This symphony was even broadcast by Radio London on June 1st, 1944, to get the French resistance ready for D-Day. Next time, bring your walking stick because we're going back to ancient Rome.